forward to our November Fitting 5 webinar today. Today we have a couple of featured guests that we're always excited about hearing from. And our topic today is around facilities planning and management. And I always try to bring different perspectives to our Fitting 5 webinars here for folks in the field that have a timely topic around facilities today. So excited about that. Our mission here at GLS is always transforming education, one leader at a time. So I just remind viewers that the purpose of these is to continue to provide resources and networking around those that are leading buildings and districts out there, to stay connected and identify some of the best resources and people out there. So today's another step in that direction, and excited to have Mr. Joe Nelson there, who just got back from the World Series, and we were reminiscing there a little bit. And he is currently the superintendent at Clarion-Goldfield-Dows. And I just want to mention, before I turn it over, that Joe was previous to that at Johnston, where he did a lot of facilities projects as the athletic activities director, I should say, at Johnston. So not just his current role, where they got some exciting things going, but also his previous role. And then we'll turn it over to Patrick Davis with Denovo, who will talk about some of the logistics and planning and offer some other resources from other districts that he's working with directly around the state as well. So gentlemen, thank you for being here today, and look forward to your brief insights here and follow-up resources. With that being said, Joe, I'm going to turn it over to you to kick things off today.
You bet. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm always excited to talk to people and promote Clarion-Goldfield-Dows. And I see this as two ways. So I'll tell you some of the things that have worked for us at Clarion-Goldfield-Dows, but I also want you guys to feel free at the end to ask questions. And so I'll go ahead and get started, and we'll just revisit the last 3 years in a summary. So 3 years ago, I moved up here from Johnston to Clarion, and I asked the question right away, hey, what do we need through community feedback and through surveys? And I would not advise taking a superintendent search during COVID and then asking the community to spend money, because you can imagine the challenge that COVID presented during a building project. But during my initial communications and conversations and surveys within our community, they said two things, big fella: keep our schools open. Do whatever you have to do, but keep our schools open. I said, gotcha, loud and clear. We're on the same page, because that's going to be my mission too. In the middle of COVID, though, we have one other thing you must get done: build us a gym. So they were very clear in the directives. I'm a straight shooter. I like it when things are clear, but when I got here, they were very clear. We're a district that merged two other towns and two other districts since 1984. So since 1984, we're the only district in Iowa that's merged two towns but reduced gyms. So if you can just do that in your head, we added Goldfield and Dows since 1984, did not keep their gyms. So we've become a district of 1,000 students, which is right across the board, average in the state of Iowa, and had one gym. So our one main gym in the middle of town is basically humming from 5:45 in the morning until 10 o'clock at night. It is just not doable. And so we went to work right away, got the gym going. I was all excited. I'm waving the flag across town. The gym is coming. We're keeping schools open. I'm thinking this job is a piece of cake. We hit March, year one, and bam, you know where this story is going to go. Supply chain issues. Mr. Nelson, your gym is now delayed 1 year. So to go back to the community and tell them that, hey, I've already spiked the ball, we have the gym coming, that was a disappointment. But we're also just months away now from opening our gym. But I will tell you, I let the feedback and the data from our surveys and conversations in town drive that. People would ask me during my first year, what do you want, Joe? What's your mission and what's your vision? I think those two things are confusing and interchangeable, and I would just turn it around and tell them what I want for this district and my vision for this district are secondary. It's what do we want? What is our vision for our district? And I think by building that support, talking to your stakeholders, talking to your alumni, talking to your farmers, your people that do the work, they're going to give you the answer for your building project. And then it's just important to include those stakeholders in that mission, because I see my role paramount in this district as the hype guy. I have to be the guy that's waving the flag for the district. I have to be the guy on social media that's telling people, hey, the great things that are going on in our district and our best days are ahead. And you can do that with a building project. I'm proud of it because I'm a part of it. I've had a chance to build two athletic facilities in two different districts, but there's no shame in our game. I don't take any chance. I don't miss any chance to tell people about our building projects and the celebrations we have and how we're attracting kids. There are only 3 schools in our county. It's Belmont, Eagle Grove, and us. It's not a business. It's not a competition, but we're doing everything we can at Clarion-Goldfield-Dows to make sure when a family comes in this county that they know the choices and options that we've created here for kids, athletically, activities, and in our classrooms. And I think a building project does that for you. I also think you when you get something going like this, you near the finish line, you make it clear to people that, hey, we have this done and we're excited about it, and this is when we'll open, but we're not done yet. And so we're constantly asking for feedback, whether it's at a SIAC meeting once a month. I bring in our religious leaders for lunch. I dubbed it my first year soup with the soup. We have chicken noodle soup, and we bring in every religious leader from all 3 towns. They have been my best portal. Soup with a soup. Write that down, keep it, steal it, use it, recopy it, do whatever you want with it. But they go out on Sundays and they say, hey, I had lunch with the big fella, and this is what's coming down the road. I'll have more people stop me when I'm getting coffee at Casey's or getting my brats at the locker in town and say, hey, a father told us that you guys are looking at a bike trail, or heard that you guys are resurfacing the track. Your people in these small communities get a lot of their information from our religious leaders, and they've just been paramount to our success here. They have our back when we need it. They support us in that same vein when we need that extra boost. And I'll give you an example to that. 3 weeks ago, we lost a young man to suicide up here. It crippled our community. It still is having effects with us, and it should, and it'll continue throughout the course of this year. Our religious leaders have boosted us up, helped us, and supported us, and been just what we needed. And I would say they've been with us since the very beginning. And so lean on your people. Your people are going to get you through these things. I guess the other thing that I would tell you during a building project too is you have to find out early on who your folks are that are decision makers and your leaders in town and the people of influence. We were really fortunate in Clarion that I had people here that obviously wanted me to be successful when I got here, but they introduced me to the farmers. They introduced me to the people, the blue bloods, if you will, of our 3 communities. And, I was able to meet with those people early on and listen to them. And that's the other piece of advice to tell you is I'm social, I'm gregarious, but I also have to learn when to turn it off and listen to those folks. And they really guided me, and they said, hey, Joe, we're not digging up old bones, but it's long overdue. We need to get a gym. We need to get a facility upgrade out here. And so that was really the catalyst for a lot of the decisions we made. I would bring it up at the board level that, hey, I'm having a lot of community conversations, and there's a theme that we need some upgrades. And so this might sound simple, but one of the pieces of information that I got from our retired teachers in town, people that have been here forever, is, hey, we know and we've been told that air conditioning is going to be improbable because of a cost prohibitive standpoint, but we'd love to have air conditioning in our old building. Well, our elementary middle school was built in the 30s, and it's a building that a lot of us are familiar with in Iowa. It's a straight up old brick salt box like I grew up with in Slater. And so putting a plan together strategically with our board and our communities to put air conditioning in there and a 2-year plan, I can't tell you all the goodwill that has created for us. So we're putting air conditioning in our building so that every classroom will be air conditioned. It's going to cost us quite a bit, but if you budget and you plan for that, those are things you can be doing for everybody. And I think the reason why I want to make sure that I highlight that is I think you got to be careful as a superintendent not to get labeled and tagged as you're just the activities guy. You're just interested in building facilities. I want to do the right thing by kids every day in this job. And so that just can't be an AstroTurf baseball field, and it can't just be a gym. I'm very quick to clarify people when they say that it's a gym and it's a baseball field. We call those classrooms because they are. We have kids that are out on our AstroTurf baseball and softball fields for PE every day. Our band, our soccer kids, everybody is using that. Our communities are using it. And obviously our gym is a classroom as well too, but I think you have to go farther than that. So I think you got to survey and ask your teachers, hey, fundamentally, what is it you're missing? I got smacked in the head with a frying pan. It was across the board. Joe, we need air conditioning. And so when you get that feedback and it's 90%, I think you just got to listen and you got to follow through. And then I think the other part that is critical is keep updating and communicating what the progress and what the timeline is. People have been forgiving about our gym being late because we've constantly communicated. I've done that in the town paper. I've done it in my updates. I've done it through email. And like I said, I've done it with our Soup of the Soup. If you ask anybody in town, they know that our gym's delayed. They don't like it, but it's definitely not a surprise to anybody. And I would tell you, you will not be able to over communicate in this job. Always have that in the back of your mind that, hey, there might be someone that didn't get my message. I literally go to every event. Tonight's Freaky Friday. It's our school musical. And I use that as an opportunity, as a portal to see me. I'm 6'5", 300 pounds. I can't hide anywhere. So when I go to an event, people find me and they ask for updates. I would tell anybody that wants to do this job is that use those events as a chance to answer questions, because if you get in front of things and you're at events, first of all, people know you love kids and that's why you're here. So you should be at events. I believe that in my heart, but that's a great chance to communicate with people, whether it's a building project or it's a snow day they're mad at you about. As superintendent, you have to be open and visible and accessible. And that's something I am. I will take the shots because we need to do that. I'll never run away from somebody that's upset with me, but use your events as visibility and an opportunity to connect and communicate with people. So I rattled on for about 8-10 minutes there and I could keep going, but we're just super proud of what's going on here. We got 1,000 great kids and this is a great place to work. And I think we've shown that, right now, it's hard to get employees, guys. I'll tell you, that's the biggest stress that superintendents have right now. It's just hard to get employees, but thanks to 3 great principals and a super board and good communities to work in, since COVID, we have not lost anybody and we still have people applying, and we think it's a great place to work, and that's why people stay here. And our enrollment has really been trending in the right direction too. It might not sound like a bunch if any of you guys are from small towns, but we added 27 kids this year to our enrollment, and that's coming on last year, adding 16 kids. So if that trend continues, it sure makes our CFO happy and myself too. But you got to make your districts attractive, and that starts in my office, but boy, you have to have good people to keep it going.
It's awesome, Joe. Appreciate that insight. And certainly those increased enrollments have something to do with the facilities and the pride in your district. Can clearly see the passion as you talk about this. Matter of fact, I will say, I often joke around with Joe that he better budget for the statue they create in his district when he leaves as part of some of these projects with a little humor. Good insights there. Appreciate that very much. And Clarion-Goldfield-Dows, certainly lucky to have you. Patrick will talk about a lot of the analysis and going from vision to next steps here next with Denovo. And so, Patrick, I'll turn it over to you.
All right. Thank you, Trent. Let me share this screen real quick. Yeah, thanks for inviting me and to be a part of this conversation. I like talking about buildings and how it relates to schools and education. I'm an architect by trade, did that for about 6 years, and now I have the pleasure to align my passions of architecture and design and construction with implementing facility projects in primarily rural schools around Iowa. So you just heard Joe. He came in and he knew exactly what the community wanted. It was a gym. Boom. Nothing. There was no question about that. But for a lot of different districts, that's not the case. The target's a lot fuzzier. And so what I'm going to talk about is a process that when we look at things, when the target is fuzzy, where do we go from there? And so a lot of the concepts are similar to what Joe just talked about: communication, the data, the decision makers. There's a lot of the same similarities, but implemented a little bit differently. So I'm going to talk through this with an example of one of our success stories and just relate that back. So this district I'm going to talk about, they came to us. They had no idea where to go. They knew they had facility issues. Unfortunately, they had a failed bond referendum about 4 years ago. And when you start to dig into that, it was because the data that they had gotten was not really founded with really good information. There was poor communication throughout the process of the facility assessment and the referendum campaign. And there was also distrust within the district administration, the school board, the community as a whole. So there were a lot of things that didn't hit, that didn't lead to a success. So the points that I have up here on the screen are things that take away that hopefully you can get a little bit out of and take back and make something a success. All right, so communication. This was last month's topic and Joe mentioned it a lot of communication. So from the onset, we made sure for this process that there were regular articles going out in the newspaper, local radio. There was a newspaper article the day after we got hired to do an assessment. Said they're thinking about doing an assessment. They're thinking about facilities. They have known deficiencies, and so that just continued. That was the baseline of the community is going to understand what's going on. And then anytime surveys came in, there was an article about that, or there was a communication out about that. So that just continued all the way through, and the data kept building on itself. So it's really important to be transparent, to be really upfront, to make sure that that communication is happening all the time. Tell them what you're going to do, tell them what you're currently doing, and then what did you do? And with last month's topic of, hey, make sure there's regular communication going out, make sure facilities are a part of that, whether it's your summer project list or different programs that are being used in your different buildings. All your facilities should be talked about, because everyone wants to hear about what's going on in their building. And then talk about what can't be seen. Tell them you replace the roofs, because that keeps you dry. It's a huge expense, but nobody sees that on a daily basis. All right, let's talk about good data. So a successful referendum, this one started with strong data. We went in, we did a detailed facility analysis that came back with a lot of deficiencies, a big deficiency list, estimated cost, the clear needs list. And everyone knows the term garbage in, garbage out. If you start with bad data, it's not going to build on itself very well. So we had that comprehensive assessment, and that helped them look at what they had to do, that very clear needs list versus what's the wants list. So it was when they got into prioritization, it was really clear about they were doing this because of this. So it also helps define bringing projects together for efficiency. So think of adding, let's just say the priority was life safety. So we need to add a fire sprinkler to our building. Okay, another piece that goes along with that is we're probably going to have to do new ceilings when you do that, because you're going to be above ceilings working around that. And then what can you do from a lighting standpoint, because you're in the ceilings as well? So can you change the classrooms, their lighting, add dimming, the lighting levels, and do that all in one project and find efficiencies with that. So the next is decisions. Who's making these decisions? So from the onset, we met with the board, understood how they wanted to proceed. And sometimes a board will want to be a part of all decisions and just need to have that control. And some say, we just want to know what's going on, keep us updated, and bring us a recommendation. And that was the case with this district. Just bring us a recommendation and we'll go from there. Are you getting feedback on your end?
Is this better? I don't. Can you hear me or not?
Yeah, it's okay. It's not terrible, Patrick, but there is some feedback.
Okay, I have no idea what's going on. I'll keep going though. If it gets bad enough, just let me know and I'll try to figure something else out. So yeah, board facility, it's a good idea to always have board involved, and usually there is that structure, and then there's also that facility advisory committee that Joe talked about. Sometimes that's a facility that's called a steering committee, but talking about that big cross section within your community that you're talking to, getting ideas from, This is an opportunity for all ideas to be presented. And then also helping with that process in making decisions should be a good facility partner, design partner to help present those options, offer that construction expertise so that the data is founded in good information. All right, so funding, everyone likes to talk about money and everyone, potentially taxes going up. No, they hate when that gets brought up. But this district worked with their financial institution over many months from the beginning of the process. And it took time to gauge the cash availability, the amount to levy, where do we get the buckets from? Up on the screen here, here's option 1A, 1B, 2A, 2B. What's going to be from property tax? What's sales tax? What levy rate are we going to be okay with? Going back to the failed bond referendum, this group was really hypersensitive about how to get it right and what's going to get something over the finish line, because it wasn't just about what projects do we want to do, but we need to make sure this passes because we have deferred maintenance that we have to take care of, whether this passes or not. So a lot of discussions went into what's going to be palatable for our community as a whole, and having all those stakeholders at the table making that decision was really important. So, and then when you're talking about funding, how do you structure a project? Do you do it all at once? Do you just, try to eat the elephant in one bite, or do you, take off little bites over time and phase something? Every district is different and every project is approached differently. So yeah, it takes a village. In this process, we crafted our team around the needs of the district and around every situation that arose. So the point here is don't plan in a silo. It takes a lot. So we brought a strong design team to work through concepting. We let the facilities committee build a project that made sense to them, made sense for the needs and wants, and that consensus was brought to the school board. We tried different ways to survey staff and stakeholders. We ensured that all along these meetings, the broader community with newspaper articles and the radio was being reached out to and talked about. We involved election experts for guidance and data analysis. So we just really wanted to be hypersensitive to the local chatter that Joe just talked about. What are they talking about at Casey's for breakfast? What are they talking about at the bars or at the locker? And just really making sure that there was, we were really in tune with what was going on to make sure that if we had to pivot, if there was a different message that needed to go out, that we could react to that. So that cohesive team that became the village is what produced strong results. Success. So let's talk about it actually being a success. So planning takes time. Construction is a pain in the butt. Nobody ever says that was an awesome project. Everything went totally smooth. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I would like to say that, but it takes time, a willingness to listen, a willingness to pivot. Attention to detail is really important. But make sure that as a superintendent or as a leader of the community, make sure that you're finding a partner that you trust, that will be a partner throughout the whole process. We're Iowans, we like to do things, we like to find a way to bubble gum and duct tape things together and say, oh, I can save a buck here, save a buck there. But this process, if you're going to jump in and go full in on a construction process, make sure that you do the job once and you do it right. And so build that team and don't fragment it into different silos. So yeah, just once you jump in, make sure you're willing to put in the effort and the time and get the community rallied around it. So that is all I have.
Well, thanks, Patrick. Great insights, and I appreciate kind of the step-by-step approach there. Clearly, you can't leave a lot of these steps and important, highly expensive and slowed down a lot of times projects to chance. And I appreciated how much you talked about the intentionality and the data behind guiding the decision making with facilities. I also smile a little bit going back to Joe's presentation, and just want to remind folks about using sports facilities as another classroom, just a different classroom. And that's something that I think is fairly unique that we don't sometimes think about, or your patrons don't think about, but it truly is a representation of your district in another classroom before and after the academic classroom. So some good takeaways there, and appreciate your insights. We will be sure to share your contact information if our viewers have questions or need resources after today. But clearly, some really important steps on improving schools and facilities from both of you today. So thank you for that.